What are the most embarrassing moments you have witnessed? Speech class. Chick gets up for her presentation and freezes up. For 3 minutes straight. Teacher did not stop the clock, did not excuse her, did nothing but watch her sit there and sweat. We all looked at each other and back at her for 3 minutes straight. I walked in on my roommate in college, who was watching P right now in our dorm room. As soon as I walked in, I could tell he just panicked and sat there for 1 second until calmly turning the monitor off. He then proceeded to take his computer apart for half an hour, saying that he couldn't seem to figure out what was wrong with it. I cringed. Not embarrassing for me, but get in my car to run to the store one night. Baseball game is on the radio. Whatever. Good enough. Leave it on. Announcer belches mid-word as he's delivering an advertisement for some betting website. Head on over to play Bayargle. It sounds like his insides tried to stage a prison break, followed by like 5 intensely awkward seconds of dead air. I was crying. Had an operation on my testicle. I was on the children's ward because I was 15. I woke up in the afternoon pretty out of it still. The ward was busy, lots of people walking through. Then a nurse walked over pretty quickly. She wouldn't make eye contact with me and kind of looked away as she shut the curtain around my bed. I looked down and noticed my gown had lifted up in my sleep and my hood was up. Junior year of high school. 2001 public speaking class. Humor speech assignment. A female classmate of mine clearly went to the World Wide Web via America Online for her material. She showed up with a stapled packet in her hand and introduced her humor speech as the 10 worst ways to commit suicide. They were all awful with terrible delivery. The only one I recall was number 7, by sticking your hand in a blender. Because it wouldn't kill you. It'd just blend your hand. I always thought Norm Macdonald probably could have made it work. Amanda not so much. Casually reading the comments to make sure nobody is talking about the woman they saw fall into the bumper boat pond getting off the ride that one time at Holiday World. That time on SNL when Ashley Simpson lip-synced and then just awkwardly danced off the stage. Also that time I tripped down the steps in band class right in front of the girl I had a mega crush on. I looked like a goddamn clumsy idiot. I used to work with a guy who had lost his leg below the knee in a motorcycle accident. One time he asked me if I was busy, and I replied I'm busier than a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. It didn't even cross my mind until he replied, you know that isn't really that busy. Many years ago I worked a summer in the admin building of a large chemical plant. Our department went to presentation given by a local police officer about parking lot safety. He demonstrated several techniques to thwart attackers. He went to demonstrate a kick and let out a loud fart when he did. He bravely continued, as if it didn't happen and no one acknowledged it. I was barely 20 and struggled mightily to keep a straight face. I was at a girl's house in high school and we were all secretly drinking in the backyard until her friend needed to use the bathroom and walked full force right into the sliding glass door. Her friend's parents were right inside that room watching TV too. She needed to have her parents come pick her up because the nosebleed was so bad. So the year was 2015 and my friend decided to tell a girl he liked her. So he walks up to her and the vomits straight on her. She cried and ran to a nearby teacher. Kid had detention for a week. Someone shit themselves in 5th grade on a carpet. We were at my grandma's funeral. My mom couldn't make it because she was sick. The pastor thought I was my dad's wife, my mom, and congratulated dad for finding such a young wife. WTF. Awkward. Like, how stupid do you have to be? I was stuck in traffic. Just a complete clusterfuck of a traffic jam. The car next to you was going to be the car next to for a while. I'm settled in, got my tunes blazing, look to my right and this girl is digging deep. A finger in both nostrils. She looks left, sees me looking, and you can see she had just totally blanked on the cars around her. She goes deep, deep, deep red. Like her eyeballs blushed red. Slinks way down, and stayed like that for the next 10 miles. There'd be a moment or two where I might get like a car length or she might but we'd get side by side again, and boom if she's gotten back down to pink insta crimson. I once saw a lady drop 2 trays of eggs in a row. The second one happening immediately after a store employee came to assure her that everything was fine and that he'd get the first accident cleaned up. The second-hand embarrassment was extreme. A woman was looking into one of her shopping bags while walking in the mall and walked straight into a pillar. Her body hitting the pillar made such a loud thud. I felt bad for her and think of her every time I'm at the mall. I remember a new girl came to our high school and she had a broken leg. She was on crutches and everybody noticed that. One day everybody was in the cafeteria and she came through and got line and slowly made her way through the line, but right before the cashier her 2 crutches hit water and spread apart and she face planted with a loud slap. It was as horrible as you imagined. I never saw her again. Senior year in HS health class. We get a police officer come and talk about random police stuff. When he goes off about a kid from a local middle school that brought a gun to school, big news locally at the time, but then he discloses that after investigations they found out that he was frequently abused by his parents, which no one was aware of. Little does he know that the older brother is sitting right in front of him. The whole class sat awkwardly. About 10 years ago I was walking into a gas station and a middle-aged man was pumping gas. He tried to awkwardly make a comment about the graphic that I was wearing. I believe it was a Motorhead tee. He asked to fire like some band and ran out of steam with his attempt to flirt. I assume flirting was the motive. I went in and paid. Upon exiting the store and walking to the pump, I watch him half wave goodbye as he prepares to drive away. He took off a little quick and took the gas nozzle with him. It was still attached to his tank. He ripped it all the way out of the pump. It was impressive. He was totally mortified. I thought it was better than his attempt at conversation, but felt awful for him. During the high school play, someone's mic was on backstage, and she said, "I used a condom on your mom last night." Everyone in the audience, mostly parents, heard it. It was like something from a movie. I have vibes. Embarrassing enough, right? So here I'm fresh as duck to life in America and started a new job. My boss told me the washrooms in the hallway were for 2 feet. I feigned disgust as a woman, lol. So there I am, alone at work. Week 2. My IBS kicks off big time, and when I have an IBS issue, it's instant. I panic. I run to the washrooms in the hallway and absolutely drop it, like it's hot in the toilet. I then flush the toilet and realize these are not European regular toilets. These mother ducking toilet bowls are shallow as duck. The excess flushing mixed with diarrhea rises and rises in the bowl until it ducking comes out over the bowl, and my shit and water floods the entire washroom, and all the while I'm now standing on the toilet seat as shit goes everywhere. I calmly walk back into the office in a state of shock and panic and go to get the mop at the back of the office when the cleaner ducking arrives and I can hear her screaming, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god." And then, of course, being a shitty person, lol, I had to pretend I didn't know what was wrong, and she asked me if someone had used the washroom in the hallway, and I was like, "Sorry, I knew I didn't know there was toilets in the hallway." I was in the military and stories are in abundance. I'm just going to pull one out that I remember. One night, I watched a female soldier with a bad stomach problem run into a porta-john while ripping her pants down. While opening the door, we immediately heard the noise from her release, and at the same time the noise from the girl that she had just sat down on top of. Both ran out of the little blue bathroom screaming and horrified. I was working at a restaurant and the bar was full, and I was entering some drinks in at a computer next to this patron who was saving a seat for his friend. An old high school friend comes up to him, and they chat a bit and talk about how nice it is to see each other. She asks if he minds if she takes the seat next to him, and he states he's actually meeting someone and he apologizes. She says in a confused voice, "We were supposed to be meeting." All the blood drains from his face, and he realizes he thought he had been talking to someone else, as she had a name like Alex or something to that effect. They are both mortified. He's profusely apologizing, and he says she should at least sit down and have a margarita with him. I don't know how the conversation went after that, but my god, it was so hard to witness. Sitting in 12th grade English and this kid gets up all of a sudden and starts running towards the door. Apparently he wasn't feeling well and was heading for the bathroom. Didn't quite make it and absolutely sprayed vomit all over the door. He tried to put his hand in front of his mouth to cover it, which ended up like a thumb over the hose type situation. I was at a water park around 15 or so, floating through the lazy river, and came around the bend to see an absolutely gorgeous young lifeguard on the side. I took all my courage and smiled and waved a little. He looked at me like I was insane. I get a little further and realize one of the waterfalls had pushed my bikini top down, and I had smiled at him with the titty out. Oh, I have a good one. Many years ago, when I was just a young teenager, I went for a run at the neighborhood park. I was wrapping up my third or so lap when I realized some boys around my age were hanging around the path on their bikes just ahead of me. As I approached, one of them popped a wheelie and called out, "Hey, how's your run going?" Actually, it was more like, "Hey, how's your run going?" Because as he was speaking, he proceeded to crash into the enormous metal lamppost directly in front of him. There was an extremely loud clanging sound as he smacked his face into the post and fell off his bike and onto the concrete path. All of his friends laughed hysterically, and I admit I let out a small chuckle too, which I immediately felt pretty terrible about. They were gone by the time I had my next lap, and I never noticed them at the park again. Dude, if you're out there, I'm really sorry I laughed. I was just taken off guard by the whole thing. But your wheelie was really cool, and it was getting pretty dark by that time. So I don't blame you for not seeing the big post right in front of you. Hope your face is okay. It was embarrassing during a church funeral when the pastor was giving the homily and couldn't remember the name of the deceased, who had been a long-time faithful parishioner and a generous donor. The pastor said, "We remember in a special way the soul of our dear friend R, who contributed so much to the life of this church. We pray that R may rest in peace and be fondly remembered." I was driving through the middle of Bumduck, Mississippi. Very backwoodsy and rednecky. I stopped at some dirty shithole gas station to fill up and use their dirty shithole bathroom. I'm using the stall and someone comes in behind me and uses the urinal. We are the only two men in there. This complete stranger says, "You want anything?" I froze in terror. I was speechless. He says, "Hello, you in there?" I seriously thought I was getting propositioned. Straight up Deliverance style. Just then another person enters the bathroom and this guy is shocked to recognize him as his grandson. As I go to quickly escape, this guy's red as a beet, profusely apologizing to me. He thought I was his grandson in the stall and was asking him if he wanted anything to eat or drink. Thank God. I still booked it out of there real quick. As an adult, I backed out of an angled parking space into a homeless guy riding a bicycle in front of dozens of high school kids. It knocked the guy off his bike, but when I got out to check on him, he was already riding away saying he was okay. Some of the high school boys yelled "nice driving." By far it's mostly people misjudging a step and tripping all while looking around to see if anyone is looking. One time at a swimming pool I saw a kid with his mom. The kid was probably around 10 or 12 years old. The kid was changing, and he had a towel up covering himself. His mom was holding the towel. His mom lost grip and the towel fell down and everyone saw him naked. He ran away crying. I still feel bad for the kid to this day. Once at a casino, forgot which one, I witnessed one of those stereotypical pickup artists try to make his move on a woman looking 20 years younger than him. The amount of ways he tried convincing the girl to make out with him was insane and super cringe inducing. Eventually she just called him a creep or pervert or something and left. The dude had no shame and was creepy as duck, but the dedication was objectively impressive, lol. Growing up in Eastern Europe, my dad got in a drunken bar fight one night. Police caught him, and he was sentenced to be mugged the next day, an informal sort of punishment they used, where basically you're taken to a cowshed, tied up in the corner, 6. 8 shovelfuls of manure are shoveled onto you, and you're left till sundown to think about your actions. I remember him hugging me right before he left to serve his 4 hours on the farm, saying that it was a good lesson for us kids not to do what he did, and he accepts the punishment. I could tell he was really shaken up, which surprised me. He looked utterly miserable and embarrassed afterwards, and mom complained about the stench for days. In church with the whole school for the annual Founders Day service, Bishop gave the Lord's Prayer. In the split second of silence after the amen, someone near me cut a really loud fart. I try not to laugh out loud by grabbing my nose. Massive nosebleed ensues. Have to walk out of the church bleeding profusely from the face and laughing hysterically. Get outside to find one of the art teachers and one of the English teachers kissing. They looked quite embarrassed and freaked out at the blood-soaked, cackling 14-year-old that had discovered their romantic tryst. A couple weeks back, this lady slow emo fell in front of me. She tried her darnest not to, but she was very aware I was watching. She was walking up from the beach and started falling slowly, grabbed onto a tree branch, but even that didn't help. Holy duck, I had to look away so she couldn't see me laugh. But I'm sure she saw my shoulders shake, and her ducking husband just stood behind her watching, LOL. We were in a bar and there was an informal work Christmas party. A woman had clearly peed her pants and had no clue. Not the most embarrassing thing, but it's the first thing I thought of, and it was actually pretty funny. Also, it happened to me. I was walking across the parking lot towards the entrance of the grocery store as a man was walking out. The sun was right over the building and shining directly in my face. Suddenly I noticed something sort of fluttering flying around next to my face. I assumed it was some kind of big and started freaking out a little, frantically moving my upper body around to dodge it and trying to swat it and making what I'm sure was a rather unattractive face. It was a leaf. The man walking towards me, who did not have the sun in his eyes and could see it was a leaf the whole time, tried to stifle his laughter as he passed. My own. When I had a snot bubble form in my nose talking to my boyfriend's dad, or when a bottle of mayo hit the floor and went directly into my eye in front of my BS mom. My boss's name is BJ, and he liked to go on vacation, so we'd refer to taking a vacation day as a BJ. We are in morning circle meeting 30-ish people. Our executive director woman starts praising our head chef, nice, somewhat shy guy, for a good job on the previous night's event. Not thinking. He says I should get 2 BJs for that. He turned bright red and we laughed for 5 minutes straight. I caused this for my best friend and she is still pissed at me for this. It was the first day of school and I was the new kid. We were all taking turns introducing each other. We had to say our names, our hobbies and interest, and stuff. When it was my turn, an adorable girl I now call my best friend kept giving her input after I said something. Things like, oh yeah, I've read, seen it too, and shit. So when it was her turn I decided to do the same. I did what she did, and it was fine, until she said she likes and is reading the Twilight series. She was looking at me as she said it, and when she saw my eyebrow rise slightly and my head tilt, she blushed and immediately added the clean version. The clean version. I had raised my eyebrows because I was intrigued that she liked the vampire romance stuff, not because of anything else, and it shocked me that she would be so quick to assume that I thought she was reading something inappropriate. Heck, I didn't even know there was a clean or a dirty version. I found it to be a little suspicious, and I suspected that she actually may have been reading the unclean version, if there even was such a thing. So when she saw my eyebrow skyrocket at her reaction and the teacher's "excuse me, there's a dirty version," look, she blushed harder and was understandably flustered. She finished her introduction in a hurry and sat back down. The class was dirty-minded, so I can only guess what they were thinking after that. And that's the story of how I met my best friend. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.